knew the routine, and we went to base post office at Fort Sill, at Fort Bragg, to pick the mail up, and then I had written authority to pick the mail up for 112th and bring it in, and he showed me the routine, just one day. And then twice a day I had to do that. I went back on my own in the afternoon. And see, I was under the adjutant. The adjutant is the administrator of every unit, personnel manager. He was a Captain Davies. He did not like me. I did not like him. It was almost instant for some stupid reason. But I knew my job, and mail was a problem. That was one big thing that the Army had overlooked. They never expected the civilian soldier to get the volume of mail that he did. And although the regulations had been set up, they had nobody there to enforce it. That's where I got lucky.
Tell us why.
What?
Why did they not expect the civilians to get that much mail?
That, again, see, is such a good question. Because the average soldier that went into the Army before the war went in there voluntarily because there was nothing else he could do, or he was down. He was a bum.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the Army would take people into the civilian Army would take people into from all states. They spread it around because give them a job. It was hard to get in. My buddy, 4 years of high school and several years of grammar school took him 1.5 years to get into the Army. Mm-hmm. And he had a high IQ. They also gave us an IQ test while we were there.
But the idea is that the volunteer army were more isolated or younger, so they didn't have the wives and the children and the aunts and uncles and fathers and mothers to send as much mail. When they instituted the draft,
exactly,
that changed.
They didn't have the contact, and the
so the projection was off.
Some of them couldn't even write, and some of these soldiers in the Army couldn't write. When those that came from Kentucky and Tennessee and places like that, and then we come in there, and hey, this is altogether different. And they're our bosses, and they're showing us how to do things. This is how you do it. You hold it over here, then you hold it over there. But then they had the method of teaching you by the numbers. Number 1, you point your finger. Number 2, you point 4 fingers, and so forth. Everything was done by the numbers. But to get back to the mail, it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then they needed skilled operators. I found out later that 2 men refused the job that I took because of the amount of work. And they were afraid of it. In fact, one of them was here from Bernardsville.
Really?
Yeah, well, anyway, I fell into that job and I loved it. Then one day, I'm in there 2 weeks or so, a fellow walks over to me and he starts talking to me. And he says, I'm Jack Walsh. He says, I'm the assistant clerk in headquarters. And he shakes my hand. He says, let's talk a little bit. So we started talking. We became friends. For one thing, Jack had just graduated from Rutgers the year before, and his father was the editor-in-chief of the Monitor, the Catholic newspaper.
Yeah.
See, and I as soon as he mentioned that, I said, oh yeah, I said, we get the Monitor in South Plainfield. And we became very, very friendly. Then he became friendly with the colonel's chauffeur. And the colonel's chauffeur was Mike O'Donnell, a typical Irishman. I was just a little bit higher than me, and he was built like a fire plug almost. He was in civilian life the chauffeur for an alderman in New York City. And they have to be worldwide. So he and Jack became friends from the office because he would have to bring the colonel in and out and chauffeur the colonel all over, and then Jack and me. So the 3 of us got together, and we were called the Unholy Three. because of the three fellows that were there, we were not,
It's okay.
Keep going, keep going.
Was the term unholy referred to the fact that you weren't excited about being involved with the English?
no, the holy tree, there was the tree referred to some historical alliance between Austria, Hungary, and somebody else.
Okay.
And this was an offspring on that. See, war was imminent, and we didn't want to go to war. We felt that with the Maginot Line and with the Atlantic Ocean, there was no problem.
Where was the Maginot Line? What was that?
That was a fortification that the French built that was, you couldn't penetrate it.
You could go around it
The
though.
enemy
And what?
couldn't penetrate it. It was underground and overground, and it had facilities out of this world that were way ahead of its time.
It was built only along the French-German border
Okay.
and not along the French-Belgian border.
Yes.
Germany just
So
went
Germany just went around it.
That was
They had done that basically in World War I as well. So
Get
the French.
pictures of the two newcomers.
Oh yeah, we have newcomers here. This is Joel Dubowski, grandson of Lew Geiger and son of Joan Geiger, and his twin brother
Hiding Joseph.
Joseph. Look at the camera. This is Joseph Dubowski, also son of Joan, brother of Joel,
Twin brother.
nephew
Ages 10.
of Joyce and Jane,
Okay.
cousin of Jordan, and grandson of Lou. I just wanted to insert really quickly here. What is your exact birth date on your birth certificate?
September the 21st, 1915.
Okay, and we are in November 28th, 2010.
Now, I have a question here. So that, so far, all of this has happened since you enlisted in October of 1941? And this is before Pearl Harbor?
This is before Pearl Harbor, April,
Oh, April.
April.
and for
Okay.
1 year. Now that is important.
Okay, but now, we're up to what month?
We're in the beginning of May.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
May
So
1941.
we've only gone through a few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just trying to figure out how imminent
The
war
time frame,
was.
yeah,
Well, it wasn't.
Oh.
Well, yeah, yes, it was, because the
It
Germans,
was.
Jordan preempted me. The German army didn't bother penetrating the Maginot Line, or tried to, because they couldn't, so they just went around it.
would this be a good time to take a break?
Maybe not, because we got
No,
long
no.
ways
Okay,
to go.
then somebody hold the camera while I go get the charger for the battery.
We've only done a week.
Oh, okay. Joel could be a camera holder for a while, maybe.
Yeah.
1 week we have 5
Okay.
years.
Do we continue?
Yeah,
Yes.
Joel's
Joel's the
Joel's
cameraman.
the cameraman.
So that was a hectic summer. President Roosevelt was having a hard time trying to extend the draft. He wanted to keep us in for the 6 months and the duration. And he was having an awful hard time, and he couldn't do it. But finally, it didn't pass. It kept coming up, but Congress rejected it because of the unfavorable attitude of the public. As I said earlier, we felt there wasn't going to be any war, that Germany had stopped, and that was it. So that summer, I spent that summer as a mail clerk going back and forth with privileges. I didn't have to do KP, I didn't have to do guard duty. I was only on special, when they'd have special, what would you call it, problems, overnight problems as such. I can remember going out on my first overnight problem in June. It was a kind of hot night. And of course, from the Boy Scouts, I knew, I had my bedroll. I know how to set my bed up. And there was one fellow there, he was also in our group, but not close, Charlie Squires. He had been a graduate of Juilliard, the famous music college. he did not want to go into the band, so they kept him out of the band. But he was a boy that had no social boyhood friends. And I remember the first night that we're sleeping out, he comes over to me and he says, Lou, he says, where is the North Star? I said, why? He says, I can't sleep facing the north or the south. I have to face in a certain direction. So I pointed it out to him. He says, thanks. And then he became one of our buddies. He had a lot of other characteristics.
Quirks.
Yes, but he was what you would call a sissy. But a real good fellow, and he was willing, and he would go to the PX and drink a couple of beers once in a while. So he was coming around. Now, I spent the whole summer that way, and my two best companions that I said earlier were Mike O'Donnell and Jack Walsh. Now, Mike O'Donnell told us so many stories about the alderman, how when he parked the alderman's car, he'd have to tip somebody, and he'd have to tip somebody else to tell him when they're going to come out so he could park right there. Then, many times, he was called on 7 o'clock at night to take the alderman to an unknown place, come back at 10 o'clock, and so forth, so on. These are all the shenanigans that was going on in New York City. Well, anyway, in September of 1941, the unit was called out on, what do you call it, problems, on maneuvers in North Carolina. Oh, Joyce has got it. In a certain part of North Carolina, these were expansive maneuvers, and the APO had to move out there. Now,
APO, what does that stand for?
American Post Office.
Okay.
yeah. Now, this was while we were still at Fort Bragg. So, my job was to go from the where the campsite to the base post office and back and bring the mail in, sort it, and give it to the units, which was no problem for me. And I had a driver who, his name was Boob McNutt. And,
Terrible.
He
Sounds
was
like
great.
a cartoon.
He had, now when you're out in the field that way, no showers, no hot water, you're just living. This is Army life. In fact, many soldiers have said later that maneuvers was worse than actual battlefield conditions. Well, anyway, and Mike O'Donnell was the colonel's chauffeur. And of course there were blackouts all over the country too, and we had blackouts. Now Mike was an excellent driver. The colonel used to say he had cat's eyes, because he would have to do a lot of driving at night. But the three of us would get together at night and sit down and chat. Now, your mother wrote me a letter every day. And I told her, or rather we got together, she would get a distinctive colored envelope so that when I'm sorting mail or sorting
how
in a
fun.
big pile,
Nice.
I could just open that pile and
So she added to the mail
pick
crisis.
her letter out, or pick all those colored letters out and sort them first. That was just one of the tricks.
Fun.
And then, in sorting the mail, I got myself a little post office ring with a knife blade to cut the
the twine
string,
and
and then to tie it was simple. I learned how to tie, like you used to see the grocery store clerks tie. I can't do it now, and you break string. I could almost break a piece of rope that way. I could handle a mail. So that was my job, to go from there to Fort Bragg and back to where we were on maneuvers daily, one trip. And as such, then again, they would give me special instructions to visit certain headquarters for different departments.